subject.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'll do that. And that's what I was going to do. So I graduated in 2019 spring, and then I took a road trip with my fiance, like classic, I graduate college, what the fuck do I do now? And so we just took a trip, kind of made this little video, and it kind of reminded me of like, oh, I really like video and stuff. And then instantly after that, I saw that Dream Job video contest, and then kind of just was that point of my life where I'm like, well, what do I want to do? And it was just like, well, might as well try to do what I want to do now while I'm 26 years old at the time. You know what I mean? And so I'm 28 now. And so I'm just glad I took that little leap of faith, because I took that leap of faith and then the pandemic hit, and then it really allows me to submerge myself into photography and videography. And I was like 6 months into photography, videography, and I'm like shooting my first wedding. And I remember like, I'm always the king of throw yourself into an uncomfortable situation and just figure it out, because you're either going to grow or you're going to diminish yourself. Sink or swim. Yeah. So I that's what I've been doing. And then at the end of 2020, it's kind of like grounding myself, figuring out what I wanted. And one of the things I've always talked about was starting a podcast. And so it was like the end of 2020, and I had been talking about it with my buddy, like, okay, what do I want to do? And it was like, literally, I was talking to him, telling him I think I want to do this. And like, while I was talking to him, I just like bought basically what I thought I needed for the podcast. Little did I know I was going to return hella shit to Amazon and buy new stuff. But I just bought everything, like, because I knew if I don't spend money on it, I'm not going to feel the need to actually do the podcast. So I just like spent like $300 right there. And I was like, I guess I'm doing a podcast. And it was supposed to be called Trail Talks and whatnot. And then I realized hiking is a very small niche, you know what I mean? And I didn't want to just talk about hiking. So it ended up being called Real Talk and whatnot. Shout out to my buddy Jimmy for that. And it just basically highlights the talented individuals within the Central Valley of California and the people in general who are passionate about what they do. And it just, the Central Valley is just so underrepresented and gets a bad rep. And I think growing up here, you can always, you know, you see that everywhere, whether it's high school, junior high, even in college, just like everyone has something bad to say about it. But it's also a gray area. We're 2 hours away from everything. We have the UC. It's slowly becoming like the transformation in the Central Valley the past 10 years looks completely different than what it looked like, you know what I mean, prior to that. Definitely. And so I'm just glad to be a part of it. I kind of want to just put on for the city, put on the talented people, whoever's trying to do stuff out there. And that's where we are today.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Putting on, man.
Putting on.
The young Jeezy of Atwater.
Put it on for my city, man.
Dude, that's awesome, man. So when you started, when you initially like were making those videos back in high school, like whose idea was that?
That was me and my buddy Josh. So we
just like chilling one day, like
yeah.
What was like your first video? Like what were you guys doing?
It was called Magic Hula Hoop, and it was like it was a video, and it was like, imagine I have a hula hoop, and if I drop it on me, and I would cut it, right? I would cut the camera scene, and so I would disappear when it hit the ground. Okay. And so that was like the premise of it. And so like I dropped it on me, and then I would disappear, and then it would go to a new scene of him dropping it somewhere, and he would disappear, and that's all it was. It was just that simple thing. And then as like the time progressed, we got more and more complex. It was like this whole, we had like so many different ones. It was like how to pick up a chick, and it's like my buddy Josh having a hard time picking up a chick. I'm like, bro, it's easy. And I'm like, up to this chick, and she's just instantly like all over me. But it's just like stupid like videos at the time of YouTube videos, like early YouTube videos. Like think of that. That's like all it was. It was skits.
Those are the funnest. Those are the coolest.
Yeah,
ones,
exactly.
Though.
And so I wish we still had them, but my buddy, he just
you don't have them no more.
No, dude, he deleted them, and he was in control of the YouTube channel, which I wish I would have been, since I would have never deleted them. But
okay, at least like archived them. I think.
Yeah, I know.
Made them private.
That's what I was trying to tell him, but it is what it. Only one that's left is Magic Hula Hoop. All the other ones were it was just funny skit videos basically, and that's what we started with, like typical. Because when we were in high school, YouTube was not what YouTube is now. You know what I mean? It was still like Logan Paul and Jake Paul were just emerging themselves, you know, in YouTube. So it was just different time.
Well, it's crazy how fast all that changed, like social media. Like I remember Instagram was so simple back then.
Yeah, it really was.
Or even Twitter was like, you could like cyberbully and shit.
Like, yeah, I remember Instagram was around my senior year, but no one used it. Like I was still in high school when no one had social media. And then it's crazy to think like a few years later, everybody had smartphones. Like when I was in high school, we didn't have smartphones. Like the first iPhone barely came out like my junior or senior year. Yeah. And there was still no social media besides Facebook.
Yeah, that was like the first. Or MySpace was like
MySpace was the first,
yeah.
but then Facebook started getting popular, like towards my end of my junior senior year, and then after that, that's when everything started.
Yeah, yeah. Because I got my first iPhone when I graduated high school. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It
that's
was
when
around that time.
Yeah,
And that's when Instagram started becoming a thing and everything.
yeah.
And it's funny because one of my first pictures on Instagram is like there was this like filter way back in the day that like made me look old. And I was like, it's just like, hello, I'm Micah, I'm new here. That's literally what I posted. But it's funny to like look back because then like, 10 years later coming around, the old person filters like got popular again and all this other stuff. And it's just like funny to think like that's been around.
It's all
just
recycled.
yeah, just recycled shit.
Yeah.